Welcome back to the Wow Factor. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Mann. And on today's episode, we are traveling to the Valley of the Sun. Phoenix has rapidly transformed from a desert outpost into one of the most critical technology and advanced manufacturing hubs in the world. If you look at the West Valley of Phoenix today, you're seeing the future of American manufacturing with the massive semiconductor plants. And I think there's a proposed like $3 billion Phoenix logistics park. The market is just exploding. So joining me today is a veteran of the industry who leads our operations in both Phoenix and Tucson. She's a firm believer in the small town feel of local customer service backed by the national scale of warehouse on wheels, the WOW network, right? She knows how to navigate in the heat in this growing market. She's the general manager for Arizona Trailer Rentals, Rosie Youngstrom. Rosie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Great. So, Rosie, you said that your favorite part of this job is having the autonomy to make decisions that are best for your specific market. In one sentence, what is the Arizona way of doing business?
I mean, honestly, I would say the Arizona way, means showing up when it's 115 degrees outside, to get the job done with no excuses.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. We went from interviewing Dan Leslie up in Toronto, and he talked a lot about ice. And now we're interviewing you, and there's going to be a lot of talk about the heat, right? So let's really get into the warm up here. How did a leader like you first find your way into this world of warehouses and yards and logistics of the Southwest?
To be honest with you, I kind of stumbled into it. I guess it's been kind of about 10 years now since I've been in this general industry. But it's something that I really enjoy. Every day is different. Get the opportunity to help people and learn about so many different businesses and industries. So it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Now you're originally from Kansas City area, right?
Yep. Casey,
Okay, so yeah, Chiefs fan, the
I
whole
am.
thing?
Unfortunately, this year, which is the first time I've had to say unfortunately for a while, I am a Chiefs fan, but have been since I was little. So it's been a fun ride the last 7, 8 years or so, and looking
Yep,
for a bounce back year next year.
next year. Yeah. So, now you're in the Southwest, you manage both Phoenix and Tucson, right? So, with the I-10 corridor being such a vital artery between those two cities, what's a normal day look like for you? Are you moving between those two hubs once a week, or how's that work?
Yeah, typically once a week, every other week. A couple days down in Tucson. I'm based out of Phoenix. With Phoenix as a whole, there's just a ton of real estate. Uh, so I've been in Arizona now since 2019, 2018. Um, and I was doing some sales when I first moved out here. So really had to learn kind of early on in my career out here, how to plan out my days and weeks to make sure that, I'm not just spending the entire time just driving. I try to avoid the traffic rushes, and, trying to make sure that I'm spending my time, as wisely as possible. So, it's a combination of, visiting with current customers and prospecting businesses, while still staying in contact with my team in Phoenix and Tucson. Um, yeah, I would say, pretty consistently about once a week going down to Tucson, to visit with the team down there and, seeing some customers.
Excellent. So you mentioned growth in that I-10 corridor, that whole area. Phoenix has really seen a historic construction wave. I think I saw an article where they added 12% to their total industrial inventory just in the last 3 years. But even with all those new buildings and space, space is still at a premium for a lot of companies. So when you look at the West Valley or the Mesa corridors today, what would you say are the three biggest space headaches that local companies are bringing to you and your team?
Yeah, I mean, in Phoenix specifically, the central part of Phoenix is still pretty tight, not a ton of room to expand. So we are seeing a lot of businesses move out to the west side of town or the east side of town. But even with that, kind of the three things that we see. Um, First one would be, to a certain degree, the ability, especially now, to predict the seasonal spikes. Just the way with e-commerce operates and the state of the economy recently, there just seems to be a lot of uncertainty, and that still causes bottlenecks, on a daily and weekly basis for people. The second one would be the lead time for new warehouses to get built. Businesses are waiting several months or years for them to get completed. So, they don't have the current space that they need, but in the meantime, they're still having inventory coming in that they just don't have the space for. And then the last one would be organization. When there isn't enough space to have what you need, where you need it, it causes delays. If you can't find the one pallet that you need stuck in the back of a warehouse, that certainly doesn't make things any easier.
Yeah, so you talked about the uncertainty, and sometimes when we talk about trailer rental or container rental, there's this short-term Band-Aid type thinking, right? As opposed to long-term strategy. A lot of folks see that a trailer as a short-term fix. How do you coach a Phoenix ops manager or warehouse manager to see mobile storage as a long-term strategy, for their just-in-time manufacturing needs rather than just that seasonal Band-Aid?
Yeah, I mean, the simple way is a warehouse is a fixed cost, which, you kind of know what you're paying for several years at a time. And the trailer is a variable asset. But that just-in-time environment, though, you don't want to pay for 100,000 square feet if you only need that much space for, 3 to 6 months out of the year. So our storage trailers can help to affordably bridge that gap and give you just what you need when you need it.
And what are warehouse costs like out there? Is it like $12 to $15, something like that,
Something like that. Yeah.
per square foot? Yeah. So for a trailer, you're talking, 450 square foot, 53-foot trailer, right?
Yep.
And so, you could almost do it for $1 a square foot.
Yeah, I mean, when you really break down the cost difference, and again, you're not locked into anything. I think you can really see the difference that our trailers can make, and you can see that difference, in the bottom line of the business. So
Yeah. So tell me about that hair on fire moment when a Phoenix panic call comes in. Maybe a company supporting a technology company or manufacturing company suddenly realizes that they have zero room for inbound materials.
yeah, so we recently helped a business in the semiconductor industry. They kind of processed the entire life cycle of them. They needed some extra space for their raw materials. They called in essentially needing these trailers yesterday, which is something that we see quite often. And we were able to get them, set up and delivered a few trailers at their docks within 24 hours. So I think the initial need was for 6 months, but they just recently reached out and they extended that for another 6 months. And that's kind of another benefit of what we offer since we're month to month. You can keep that extra space for however long you need it.
Yeah. And so what changed for that customer's blood pressure in that first 24 hours after they knew they had, like, the cavalry was going to be on their way to save the day, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the alleviation of having that extra space that they didn't have. They didn't have to worry about, where they were going to put this stuff. They already had the solution there and on site, and were able to kind of get that process or issue taken care of quickly.
Yeah. What separates the companies that bounce back from a crisis like that from the ones that stay stuck in that cycle of, fighting the yard every day?
I mean, I think kind of the biggest thing that we've seen are the customers that kind of treat it like an extension of their inventory system, an extension, of their warehouse directly. Specifically with the inventory type of stuff, it can be labeled, tracked, and it's accessible. So I think that's kind of the biggest difference that we see.
Excellent. So you have said that your team is the best in the business when it comes to customer service. Tell us a little bit about your team there in Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, I could be biased in that, but I do truly believe that the people that we have here in Phoenix and Tucson are just great people. They genuinely enjoy what they do every day, and they want to do a great job at it. In this business, we're really just trying to help people. The team here is always willing to go the extra mile to make sure the customers have what they need when they need it.
I have to admit that I know some of those folks there in Phoenix. I think you're exactly right. I mean, these guys are servant leaders. They help internal and external customers. Whenever somebody here needs training, I can always rely on somebody from Phoenix to step up and help teach somebody else. And I really appreciate what you guys do there. Let's jump over into economics. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the bottom line in the basin, I guess. If a VP of supply chain asked you for a simple way to compare a Phoenix warehouse lease, like we said, probably $12 to $15 a square foot, to a mobile storage plan, how would you walk them through that math?
I mean, the simplest way to do it is really just, we're about a quarter, probably, the cost of traditional warehousing, um, with no, 5 to 7 year lease terms. So just a quick math on that, you're only paying for exactly the amount of space that you need when you need it, and you're not locked into a long-term deal. So we could plug that into your P&L and see how that affects your overall business, as well as the other benefits of the flexibility with our trailers. I think that that number sticks out significantly.
Yeah, the math really works. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, you got, you know, $15 a square foot or $1 a square foot. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So let's give some of the Arizona listeners, hopefully we got a lot of them out there, a playbook. So if a warehouse manager's out of space and out of budget today, hopefully not, it's the first of the year, but what is the first step you tell them to take before they even pick up the phone to call you?
I mean, kind of like I just mentioned, the budgetary aspect of stuff, outside of the being out of space, I think right off the bat, you could say, what could I do with all of the extra space if I get all of the stuff that I don't need in my warehouse out of here? But just from the budgetary part of it, do the math and compare the cost of the warehouse on the trailer, see how much money you can save, and then, think about where you can reallocate that money and what other projects you can do or whatever processes that you could make better, just with those extra funds.
So what is a simple yard or dock change you've seen your customers make that you feel like other people should copy?
I mean, one of the things that we see pretty often is people actually storing the equipment here in our yard. Many customers have a lot of trailers, as well as traffic coming in and out of their warehouse or warehouse space. So when they can kind of get rid of the stuff that doesn't need to be directly on site, or if it needs to be shuttled from our yard to their yard, it just gives them some more witty room in their yards, and they know exactly where everything is and when they need it. And if they don't need something for 3 or 4 months, they can come over here and sit in our yard and just kind of take that headache away.
Man, it's great to have that kind of space and to offer that kind of service. We used to call that AVA, right? Additional value added, right?
Yeah.
um, so the last time I was in Phoenix, there was a container full of footy pajamas. What is the most unusual use case for one of the trailers you've seen in your market?
I mean, that one is up there for sure, because along with that, there were also some adult diaper and some other weird things in that same container. But for a long time, you had a customer who ran kind of carnivals and things like that. And he stored, carnival attractions and games and stuff like that in our trailers for decades.
Wow. So slot machines, how about that? Anything really weird like that?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but just kind of all sorts of these little gamey things, and you see it, and you're just like, "Oh wow, that's kind of crazy." And yeah, he was stored in there either long term because he didn't need it anymore, but he still wanted to hold on to it, or the stuff that he would offload for certain events, and then just reload onto those trailers whenever he needed them again.
Excellent. When I talked to Chris Martin, who is the general manager here in the Louisville and Southern Indiana market, told me a story. He was eager to tell me a story about how he saved a customer $1.4 million. What's the best problem solving or cost saving story that you have in your market?
I mean, for us, it's just the problem solving part of it. I think that kind of weighs heavily on a lot of people, and I think throughout the day, if you're constantly running into these obstacles that aren't allowing you to do your job as effectively or as efficiently as possible or as you'd like to, that's kind of the biggest difference that we can make. So recently we had a 3PL company call us for quite a few trailers. They actually just had a newly built warehouse that they were struggling to figure out where to put things and how to keep it organized. So they rented about 15 trailers from us just to help solve that problem. They were able to tag trailers and they knew exactly what they were putting in the trailers. Made it easy to find them on the back end of stuff. And just the organizational aspect of it that they offer really, really helped them out.
All right, it's time to get personal. This is the Dan Patrick part of the interview, right? The signature round. So let's start with you. What was the moment in your career when you thought, yeah, this is my world. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be?
I don't know if there was necessarily a specific moment, but when I think about it, I think it's really just when I started speaking with and visiting with our customers. It's just a rewarding spot to be in. We're essentially here just to help them do their jobs better. And being a good partner to those people just feels good. And then obviously the people that I work with internally here are just wonderful. So that makes my life pretty easy as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So you've mentioned that at Arizona Trailer Rentals, everyone is family, right? Once they walk in the door. Who taught you that philosophy of leadership? How does that show up when you're talking to your team?
I think a lot of it comes from me playing sports throughout my life. And I think just the best teams that I was a part of kind of had really, really good chemistry, off the court or off the field. And then just really realizing that when you develop those relationships with people that surround you, I think that just helps the greater good of everything. And knowing that the people or the person next to you, wants you to succeed as much as you do, that goes a long way.
So when you get home and the desert sun sets, what pulls you away from trailers and freight? What do you do to reset for the next day?
Yeah, I'm fairly active, and I really enjoy being out here in the Southwest, especially being from Kansas City. Not a ton of the outdoorsy stuff to do there. So being out here, I enjoy going for hikes or bike rides, walking the dog, and just spending as much time outside as I can. Really just kind of revives me and brings me a lot of joy.
All right. So Rosie, this has been an exciting tour of the valley. Couple more questions though. What is one myth about storage trailers in the Southwest that you hope we can retire after this podcast today?
The one myth that I think we can get rid of is that they can't be thought of as an extension of your warehouse or your inventory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard that from a couple of people. It's not a Band-Aid. You can keep these things. I love the story that you told about the customer who, needed trailers for 6 months and they've already called to say, "Hey, can we keep these for another 6 months?" That's a
Yeah,
great that's somebody realizing that it's not just a Band-Aid. We can really use these things all the time, right?
yeah.
And not only that, they can store them on your yard. That's even better. That's really cool. So, last question for anyone listening who is kind of feeling that squeeze in the Phoenix market or the Tucson market, what is the one thing they should do this week besides call you?
I would say, look at how long inventory, scrap, obsolete parts have been sitting on the floor or how long they've been put in a spot they don't belong. And check if you can see that your teams can operate safely with the current surroundings that they have. Or if you just have stuff they need to get out of the way as soon as possible, might be kind of a quick and easy way to make a difference right off the bat.
Rosie Youngstrom, General Manager at Arizona Trailer Rentals. Thanks for showing us the wow factor in the desert.
Thank you so much.
Very fun. So that's it for this week, guys. I'm Dr. Mark Mann, and I'll see you next time on The Wow Factor.